Hey, it's Scott from San Marcos Makes. Today we are making bandsaw boxes, or attempting to make bandsaw boxes. So, this was my first attempt. Basically a bandsaw box, you take a block of wood, you cut it out, you put it back together, and you get a drawer. Lots of creative things. Learned a lot making my first one. I definitely made some mistakes, and I'll show you one. I forgot to put a back on it, so this thing doesn't have a back. But you see the basic concept. It's a block of wood with a drawer. I'm gonna show you step by step how to make the bandsaw box. But I'll be honest, this is gonna be my second one. Let's see how I do it, and can I be successful? So the number one thing you're gonna need on this build, and not everybody's gonna have one, is the bandsaw. This is by far my favorite tool I have in my shop. It's my Raycon. I don't have a huge one. This is the desktop version or workbench one. So that will limit to me the size of the bandsaw box that I can do, but definitely gonna be plenty big enough for what I am after. You will also need a block of wood. You know, it's going to be hard to get hardwoods this thick, or not necessarily hard, but it's going to get expensive. I had a couple planks of walnut and cypress. I glued them up together, so I have some walnut, cypress, walnut, cypress, walnut. You know, you get very creative in your patterns. However you want to think about it. It can definitely be a solid block. You know, my first one I just used two 2x4s, glued them together. So you can definitely play with wood species, grain patterns, adding things in. I've seen people use plywood, but you definitely need a bigger block of wood. Now, we got to make our pattern. All right, so the first thing we want to do is think about how we're going to have this laid out, where I want my drawers, stuff like that. So for me, I want a solid top. So I don't know if this is going to be my top or bottom, but my drawer is going to be in here. I think that might look good. My general consensus is about 1 inch all the way around here. So I do want to cut that out or draw that out. I could easily put a piece of paper on this, draw it out, or I can just use a mark, whatever is easiest for you. Now, I have actually already done this. So this is the basic look that I want to do. This would be the front of my piece. I think front. Could be the back as well. But all I did just took 1 inch all the way around, rounded my corners. Couple things now that I need to think about. I've got to get it in here. I've got to get the bandsaw blade in there. And you're going to do that by inserting it in here and just keep going and then go around. So after you get in and cut it out, then we will squeeze and glue it together. I think what I'm going to try to do this is either here or maybe here, somewhere in here. At this point, it's not going to matter what's top, what's bottom, if this is going to be the face or this is going to be the face. It really won't matter at this point. We want to get it cut out. So the next step, what I need to do, what I didn't do on this one, was I got to get a back. So before I get going too much, I want to cut a back off. I'm going to take about 1/2 inch off the back so that I have it, and that is one piece. So that after I cut it out, I glue this back on, and that will be my back of the bandsaw box. So let's cut this off. I'm going to use the bandsaw to cut that off. Let's do that. All right, so the next thing we need to do is, this is going to be our drawer. So we need a front and a back. So I'm just going to eyeball this, but we'll go about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of an inch, maybe a little bit more, but somewhere around there. We're going to take off one on the front, one on the back. So we have a completed piece. One thing that I'm going to do is to make it easier in my mind, I'm going to write corresponding letters. We'll just call these the A side. And then we'll call this the B side. B. So that we don't forget. I think it's already, okay. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So that is the front of the drawer, back of the drawer. Now we've got to cut out the middle. Got to cut this out. So we're going to make kind of a U shape. If you want to think about it like this, we're going to cut that out. But I'll draw it a little better so I can cut it out. But we're going to create a U now. So this is all going to be discarded. Alright, so everything has been cut out, but I think I have a way to show you every step you need to do just like this. We started with a block. We cut the back off. We then came in and cut this out. So that became one huge piece. Gave us this. We then cut the front off. We cut the back off. We then made the U. Gone. My next steps, these are my drawers, front and back. This will get inserted in here with the back on, and there's your bandsaw box, and we'll create a handle. So the first thing we want to do is get some glue in here to close up that seam. If you have a needle, it'd be wonderful. I'm just going to squirt it in there a little bit on both sides. I think it'll be fine. And then we want to get it clamped up and close that gap. It had the arrow to the arrow, so I know exactly where it goes. And then we'll get a clamp on it. All right, should be enough clamps to hold it. We'll let this set for a couple hours, and then we'll move on to the drawer. All right, so let me catch you up from a couple things I did off camera. So, got things glued back together. So all of these are glued. Started doing some rough sanding. Do have a little bit of the Cypress starting to break away, but I'm okay with that. It's going to be the back of part of the cabinet or box. So the parts that I need to work on now, I need to do a little bit of sanding inside by hand. I may round these off to make it kind of a round box. I'll play with that. So before we put any kind of finish, I do want to get the drawer pull on there. So all I'm going to do is find about halfway. So just in the ballpark, this is 7.5. Doesn't have to be perfect. But I definitely want to go ahead and drill that. So let's go ahead and drill that hole, pull it out of the piece, put my hole right there. Quick tip for finishing. I really like this roll of paper. I think this is, I found it in the painting section you put down on your floors, but it works really good for finishing. I use it all the time or something similar, but makes it a lot easier. I'm gonna finish both pieces. I could easily stain it. I think I'm just gonna put a couple coats of poly on it. I think that's what I could, but you could easily put wax on it. You could put Danish oil, stain it, paint it, whatever you would want to put on here. But I want to see this grain pop. I think I'm gonna use poly. Pretty positive. I think that'll look the best. So let's get a couple coats of poly on. Right, before I put poly on it, I'm gonna go ahead and wipe everything down with mineral spirits, make sure everything is good and clean before I put any type of finish on it. Plus I can start to see what this is gonna look like. It's a good idea to always wipe things down with mineral spirits. It's just a way to kind of give it a good clean, let it dry. It almost dries instantly. All right, so I have 3 coats of poly on here. One of the final steps that I'm gonna do, just take some craft paper, fold it up, crinkle it up. We're gonna use this to kind of buff the polish. Almost act like sandpaper. Go over the whole thing. Doesn't need to be dry. Last step, install the hardware. So this one just has a simple screw. I can get it in there. Tighten it down. Don't over tighten it, you sure wouldn't want to crack it. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. Got a nice little box. Not sure what I'm going to be putting in this yet, but let me know what you think. Any shape you want. So I'm going to, over the next couple months, I may make a couple more of these, but really happy with the way this turned out. Thanks.